Today we are going to study the chapter 1 of biology, class 11 or first PUC, living world. So the living world chapter is very important from the point of examination for boards as well as your competitive examination. For boards, Karnataka State Board, minimum 5 marks questions will be asked from this chapter, and for KCT and NEET, minimum of 1 or 2 questions will be asked. Apart from that, this chapter is basis or fundamental for all other chapters of this unit. That is, if you understand this chapter, you will be able to understand biological classification, plant kingdom and animal kingdom. So this chapter consists of 3 important parts, that is, living world consists of 3 important topics. One is what is living, what is living. Second one, diversity in living world, and taxonomic categories. In the past 5 years of NEET pattern, if we observe, there is minimum 2 questions asked from diversity in living world topic and minimum of 3 questions were asked from taxonomic category in past 5 years of NEET exam. So in that way, it is very important from the point of examination for NEET. So let's start with the what is living world. The very first chapter is living world, and what is from our previous knowledge, we know that something are there in the living organism that are not present. For example, if I take this water bottle and our own body, both of us are containing water, but this we know this is non-living object and we are living organism. So there are some characteristic features that are present which are fundamental and defining and are present only exclusively in living organism. And where do we see these living organism? Habitat, where do they live? The place to live is called habitat. Cold mountain, deciduous forest, ocean, fresh water, lakes and ponds, desert, hot springs. These are the places or geographical areas where living world is distributed. So if we consider the first chapter, in the very beginning of the chapter, in the introduction, they are given about a scientist by name Ernest Mayr. Ernest Mayr is also called Darwin of 20th century. Why he is called as Darwin of 20th century? It's because he is the one who gave the definition for biological species. We are Homo sapiens. We are one species which interbreed among ourselves to produce our own kind. That is the definition of the species that was given by Ernest Mayr. He was awarded by 3 prizes including Crawford prizes. So for your reference, I have just mentioned the name here. You can look into the introductory page of NCERT textbook. Next, coming with the definition of life. What is life? So philosophically, we have so many definitions for life. If you go to a saint or if you go to any monastery, the priest may say philosophically the definition for life. But as a biology student, as a scientist or scientifically, if we look into what is living, living is something that is alive. The living is something that grows, move from one place to another place, reproduce, respire, carry out various cellular activities. So when anything that is showing all these characters, children, all these characters from alive, grow, move, reproduce, respire, carry out all various photosynthetic activity, respiratory activity, excretory activities. All these are biological activities or physiological activities that takes place in the cells. So if they are exhibiting these characters, yes, then definitely they are living organisms. So living refers to the characteristics that differentiates living organisms from non-living organisms. Sorry, non-living things. Living organisms to non-living things. Which are they? So living organisms will definitely show few of these, all of these characters, that is self-replicating, self-evolving, self-regulatory systems, and capable of responding to the external stimuli. That is one thing. Next, coming with the features. So if I say I am exhibiting few features and this bottle is also exhibiting one feature, that is it can be filled with water only by me, but in my body I'll drink the water and water gets involved in various cellular activities which is not seen in this bottle, isn't it, children? So that's what making the difference. So there are some features we call as defining feature and non-defining features. So both of them are present in any living organism, but the difference between defining feature is that defining feature is compulsorily present in all living organisms. Which are they? For example, cellular organization, body is made up of cells, metabolism, all the chemical reactions that are occurring inside the cell, we call it as metabolism, and response to the stimuli. That means how we respond to an harsh sunlight or an acidic environment, or in the environment where there is so much water or rain, let us say. So that response we are showing to the external stimulus, external environment, that is seen only in living organism. Also we say growth and reproduction. Growth and reproduction is one of the important fundamental property. What they are? Fundamental property with some exceptions. We see fundamental property with few exceptions. With few are some exceptions. For example, we will go in detail with this little later, but for example, mule. If you take mule, children, mule is an living animal. It's an living animal produced by the hybridization of male horse and donkey, right? Female donkey and male horse. But it is not able to reproduce another mule. That is, it is infertile, children. It is infertile. In nature, we never see mule. It is only due to human intervention mules are produced for draught purpose. Draught purpose in the sense for weight bearing, to climb the mountain carrying lots of luggage. In that case, we use the mule. Anyways, we will go in detail with that little later. Let's start with the very first property, which is called cellular organization. So what is cellular organization? Let us see. Each organism is made up of cells. Each organism is made up of cells. So the cell contains, for example, cell contains nucleus, plasma membrane. In addition to this, we can also see cell wall also. We can also see cell wall except for animal cell. Only in animal cell we do not see any cell wall. So nucleus, and very important, cytoplasm. So all these things we see only in living organism cells. So based on the number of cells, we have unicellular organisms, and multicellular organisms. So in unicellular organism made up of, the organism is made up of only single cell. Whereas in multicellular it is made up of many cells. It is made up of many cells. For example, amoeba. Amoeba, euglena, bacteria. Okay, multicellular organism, plants, animals including human beings, right children, including human beings. So unicellular, multicellular organism. Now tell me children, can you call cellular organization as defining feature? Can we call it as defining feature? Yes. So cellular organization is a defining feature. Why it is defining feature? There is no organism without cell. If I want to call anything as a living organism, they must contain cell, at least one cell. If they have single cell, then we can call them as unicellular organism. If they have numerous cell, then I can call them as multicellular organisms. So then we can call this as defining feature, character or feature called growth. So what is growth children? Increase in size and mass. What is growth? Increase in size and mass. So all living organisms grow in size and increases their mass. For example, you sow the seed and the seed develops into an fully fledged plant. That is because of growth. See, the tiny seed which you sow in the soil is growing into a huge plant or has grown into a huge tree. Why? It is because of growth. So growth can be defined as increase in size and mass. How it is achieved children? How it is achieved? It is majorly achieved by mitosis. Mitosis is the cell division that occurs in any living organism so that they can increase in size, mass, also in number. Very important feature. Hence we also called it as twin characteristic feature or twin feature. Why twin feature? So here cell division or growth is not only resulting in the increase in size or mass but also in the number. For example children, if I take amoeba, euglena or any bacteria, how do they divide? They divide by mitosis. The same mitosis, if it is occurring in our body, it is resulting in growth. Here they are growing by number. The single or unicellular organisms are growing by number by binary fission, simple binary fission, that is mitosis. Example in amoeba. Hence we call growth as a twin feature. It is increasing in size and mass as well as in the increasing in the number. Is that clear children? Next is growth in plants. If I consider plants, how the growth takes place children? Growth is taking place throughout its life, throughout the life cycle or life stage or lifespan of the plant or tree. Growth is continuous, whereas in case of animals it is limited. For example, if I take jackfruit tree, I sow it like when I was 5 years old, but still it is growing and growing to the tallest of tall. But I stopped growing at the age of like 17-18 years. Why? It is because of the internal factor, growth hormone. So growth hormone production in animals stops at certain age and it depends on species to species, and it is an energy requiring process. Growth is an energy requiring process, and hence you might be hearing all the time teenagers need more energy rich food than the older people. Why? Because we all need energy to grow. So that's the thing, children, that's the difference between the plant's growth and animal growth. If we consider plants and animals, as we can compare ourselves with the plants which we have planted, children, plants growth is continuous and indeterminate and indefinite. Indeterminate, why? It keeps on growing and growing. Why? Because of the presence of meristematic tissues in the tips of apices. Apices means, for example, root apex. In those places, there are certain specialized tissue called meristematic tissue, hence they keep on growing. As I say, here also the growth hormones are involved, which are bringing the growth from inside. When we compare in case of animals also, in animals also we see intrinsic growth that is occurring due to the growth hormone. Here also it is due to growth hormone. So if I take this as an animal body, growth is occurring from inside. Growth is occurring from inside. Right, children? So that is one thing, right? Growth is occurring because of internal factor or intrinsic factor. Now, if I consider, say for example, in non-living things also we say, for example, to homes or our elder people or in our circle, people say mountain is growing, or there is one idol which is growing year by year. So what exactly they are meaning of that? The growth is also seen, for example, in mountains, sand dunes. In these cases, for example, let us take a garbage which we usually look around us. Day by day the garbage increases in size, children. The very first day someone dumped of one day's kachra or garbage, it came this much. Second day this much. Third day it will become a heap. It will become a mountain of garbage in a very few months. It is because of externally it is getting accumulated. We call that process as accretion. What is accretion, children? Accretion is growth due to accumulation that we see in mountains, sand dunes, as I told in case of garbage, or the dust particles in our rooms also. If one day we do not mop or vacuum it, what will happen? It will build up and the dust has been made a pile inside our room. That is one thing. So now if I say growth is seen in non-living things also, whether it is by external or internal, if we say growth is happening. Why? Because of accumulation. It is an extrinsic factor. Extrinsic growth. Right, children? Extrinsic growth. Now, if anybody asks me, then which feature is defining feature when we speak about growth? It is intrinsic growth. Intrinsic growth is defining feature because growth is happening from inside. Because growth is happening from inside by the activities of cells. Cells are dividing, they are energy requiring process, they are respiring, and continuously cells are increasing in number, resulting in increase in mass. Whereas here mass is increasing due to accumulation, 1 layer, 2 layer and 3 layer, that is due to accretion. Is that clear, children? So next let's go to the next one, that is, so what is metabolism? So if any cell, if we consider, there is a chemical reactions happening, children. Chemical reactions happening inside our body. The sum total of all chemical reactions that are occurring, inside any cell or organism is called metabolism. There are two kinds of chemical reactions are happening in our body, that is, one is building up reactions or synthesizing reactions. And another one is breakdown reactions. So what is building up reaction or synthesizing reaction. Here something is forming, children. Say for example, carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll pigment is getting converted into glucose. It is getting converted into glucose, and all of us know that this reaction is all about photosynthesis. It is about photosynthesis. What is happening here, children? Energy rich compound glucose is forming, and this reaction I can call it as anabolism. This reaction I can call it as anabolism. Breaking down reaction. Here the same glucose, let me take the same glucose, children. It is getting converted into carbon dioxide and water, and also is giving us energy rich compound ATP during respiration. Which reaction, children? During respiration. This kind of reaction is called catabolic reaction. What reaction, children? Catabolic reactions, or we can call that process as catabolism. So here the carbon dioxide and water is getting fixed to produce glucose inside the plant cell, and inside any cell, it can be plant cell or human cell or any other animal cell, the same glucose is breaking down in cellular respiration process to give us carbon dioxide, energy and water. So here breaking down is happening, hence we call catabolism. Cut. That's how you have to remember, children. Breakdown of an compound into simpler compound. That is happening in breakdown reaction or catabolic reaction. So here it is, when I compare this with the growth, children, if I say anabolism is greater than catabolism, then it is showing increased growth, children. What it is showing? Increased growth. If you all remember, growth is an energy requiring process. It consumes energy. So anabolic reactions are increased than catabolic reactions. Whereas if the anabolic reactions are less than catabolic reactions, then it is decreased growth. If A is equal to C, then it is no growth. If anabolism is more than catabolism, we see increased growth. If anabolism is less than catabolism, then we see degrowth, decrease in the growth. When anabolism is equal to catabolism, then there is no growth. It implies that there is no growth. So growth and metabolism are linked to each other, children. Though we say growth is not defining feature, we say that intrinsic growth is defining feature. And now you can tell me metabolism is an defining feature. What is metabolism, children? Metabolism is a defining feature. The fourth property of living organism is reproduction. What is reproduction? Reproduction is a process or phenomenon in which an organism produces its own kind. So own kind, that means a human produces an human, and mango seed will always develop into a mango tree. So like that, when an organism is producing its own kind, that phenomenon we call it as reproduction. So reproduction can be of either asexual reproduction, sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is the process in which only single parent is involved, and hence we call it as uniparental. A single organism is able to develop or produce two organism of its own kind. For example, binary fission if we take, in case of amoeba, the division is occurring and two amoeba daughter cells are formed. That is in case of asexual, and it is always simple. So other examples in our chapter they have given is amoeba, binary fission as I discussed, algae and fungi, asexual spores, and fungi is all multicellular fungi takes place by asexual spores, and there is only one single exception, that is unicellular fungi called yeast. In yeast we see budding, and in case of hydra, which is an animal which belongs to animal kingdom, is also reproducing by budding. Algae, filamentous algae. Which type of algae, children? Filamentous algae. Can you give an example of filamentous algae? For example, Spirogyra. Spirogyra reproduces asexually by fragmentation, and there are some other organisms also which reproduce by regeneration. For example, planaria. For example, planaria. Planaria, regeneration. So coming with the sexual reproduction, children, where biparent, two parents are required, hence we call it as biparental. The male produces sperms in case of animals, or pollen grains as in case of plants, or simply we can also call male gametes. Simply we can also call male gametes. And in case of female produces egg or ovum. Egg or ovum, we can also simply call female gametes. So when we simply call female gametes, the fusion of this male gamete and female gamete, male gamete and female gamete gives rise to zygote. This zygote will develop into an organism. So this is in case of reproduction. The fusion of male and female gamete fuses to form zygote, and this zygote undergoes post-fertilization events that results in the formation of an embryo, and embryo develops into organism. We are at the last feature of the living world or living organisms, that is respond to stimuli. Respond to stimuli is defining feature because in no other non-living thing we can see that. Why? Because any external stimulus when applied on living organism, they show up some changes in their body. For example, on a hot sunny light, we walk into a shady area. When it is too much cold or colder temperature, we keep ourselves warm. These are all certain changes that we are showing externally. Internally also there are so many physiological activities that is taking place so that we can cope with our environment, that are external changes occurring. So how we are able to respond, children? Because of the presence of nervous system. Aggregation of nerves, nerve net. If we consider from Coelenterata, the nerves started to form and they were in nerve net form. As it went into higher evolution, for example in humans we have brain, spinal cord and also sensory organs. Our sensory organs helps us to receive the stimulus from external sources, and accordingly our brain and spinal cord responds to the stimuli. And if I consider self-consciousness as one of the feature, and it is found only in humans. So self-consciousness is not present in any other animals, children. For example, tiger doesn't know what is good, what is bad. Only its work is to hunt and eat the weaker animal. But humans, if in the humans it is not like that. He can decide what is good, what is bad. So it is a non-defining feature. In case of humans, the self-consciousness is present and absent in any other animals. And one more thing, if we consider what about the person who is present in the coma. For example, a person has met with an accident and entire body is failed and multiple organ failure, he becomes dead. And when the person's brain is dead, children, he is said to be in coma and he is living only with the support of life supporting system. For example, all that oxygen mask, oxygen cylinder, kidney, artificial kidney. In that way he is living. Do we call him as living or dead, children? It is brain dead. When do we call dead? Once that person was living, now he is dead. That means respond to the stimuli is defining feature. Now coming with the plants, children, in the plants also we see growth towards sunlight. For example, shoot system. Shoot system, how do they grow? Where the sunlight is falling, in that direction only the shoot system will grow. Whereas root system, children, root system grows towards the gravity where the water is present, where the water is present. And one more example in our NCERT what they have given is touch me not plant, which is also called Mimosa pudica. So this plant, whenever it is a weed, children, when you touch this plant or leaf of these plant, they just close them. They just close the leaf. So that plant is responding to your touch. In other non-living objects, we do not see such kind of activities. So to conclude that this feature of respond to stimuli is an defining feature. What is respond to stimuli, children? It is an defining feature. Self-consciousness present in human, it is a non-defining feature. It is not present in any other animals.